sounds. It doesn't sound terrible, but it could be better.
Gonna be.
Oh yeah, we're working on it.
Gonna be.
But yeah, I mean, that actually does bring up something I've always wanted to ask you.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know. I don't know if it's just because of some people start, they start professing that they're like psychology majors. But if there is one thing
people giving you advice you didn't ask for?
Well, not just people giving you advice you didn't ask for, but also giving you advice that just sounds wrong and a little bit, I don't want to say is completely wrong based on the old way of doing things. I mean, it's not quite, it's not like when you go working out in the gym, you're trying to build muscle, you're supposed to intake protein, right? And then, and then all of a sudden, there's like this new wave of people be like, no, in order to build muscles, you must have no protein, all vegetable diets.
Well,
and I'm like, dude, that's not how it works.
Yeah. There's things that are set.
Yeah. I mean, like, I get you don't want to eat meat, but you're basically, there's difference between wanting to get into vegetarianism or veganism versus trying to rewrite just decades of breakthrough science basically telling you in order to build muscle you must intake protein.
Centuries.
And the reason I bring that up, I know it's a little bit of a segue, but it kind of relates to my question. The whole thing of in the past, relating to the kids getting disciplined.
Yeah.
In the past, there was how do I say this in a advertiser friendly way? That's the trick. There was what do you call it? Corporal punishment. I think that's allowed because it's nice and soft. And then slowly that started to recede to the point where on social media, mostly Facebook and not really Reddit, because Reddit kind of knows better, I think. I don't know. But you see stuff on social media saying that something about, the whole thing of, I got either the paddle or the belt as a child, and I grew up to be a fully functioning adult. And then there's people coming out of the woodwork saying, no, that you are a trauma survivor, and the way you interpret that means that you have excess trauma, and you are in need of help from your parents hurting you as a small child. It's
I guess it depends. I guess it depends on what you want to give power to.
Fair enough.
You have a positive perspective. You have a not positive perspective, and there clearly are cases of abuse and discipline approaching that, and even dipping its toe in it. Every now and then.
Yeah, we're not saying that doesn't happen.
It does. But, you can either, you're going to use it for something. You're going to use it to propel you. You're going to use it to repress you. It's in the past. It happened. Okay. You can spin it so it enslaves you, or you can spin it so it powers you and raises you and edifies you and enriches you. So what you don't realize is that the part about being tough, there's an old saying. It's also a scripture. It says iron sharpens iron. What you will find is that a tough upbringing will, as a general rule of thumb, actually make you toughen you up. Yes, it can be dysfunctional, but that's not its intention. Its intention is purely functional, and there is a place for it. Okay, to say that there is no reason, I don't believe that exists.
Reason? You mean?
Well, people say there's no absolute reason to use any kind. It's funny to me because I can remember growing up and like sixth and seventh grade, having a couple of the teachers that I had classes with literally. But one in particular had each one of them had their own paddle.
Oh, so this is back when they were building the pyramids, I see.
Yeah. I don't think they were allowed to put a nail through it at the time.
No, that probably was taken out like 10 years prior.
At least.
Yeah.
I'm sure there was time for that. But I had this one teacher that had there was like a stand over the top of his head. There was a stand where his paddle hung. So if you looked at him sitting at his desk about 2 to 3 yards, 2 yards above him, from a seated position, was his paddle hanging like it was like a gun rack that had a paddle on it. Looked like a big wide cricket bat that had holes drilled through it.
Oh, one of those. Like a wiffle ball bat of doom.
Yeah, exactly. So the holes through it cut down on the wind resistance.
Because that's how science works.
Strangely enough, he was a math and science teacher.
Of course, the only person that knows how physics works understands the need as in order to cut down wind resistance on the paddle swing, I must drill holes through it to allow free air to pass through. It's like, dude.
Kind of decrease the airspeed coefficient when paddling that ass. He was a cool guy. He was an ex-Green Beret that had done sense. 2 tours in Vietnam.
That makes sense. You had a math teacher with a paddle full of holes, and he had done 2 tours in Da Nam.
Da Nam, that's right.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was brutal. No, he was a cool guy. I mean, you liked him, but he was tough.
Oh, of course.
Of course.
You don't do 2 tours in a hell jungle and not be tough.
1978.
Yeah, that's about right.
That's about right. 77, 78, somewhere in there. Even maybe as far as 79. He was my math and science teacher for my 6th and 7th grade, and he had been working there since 72. He had done his 2 tours, and I believe it was 68 and 69, which my understanding was very intense time. Well, I guess any time in war is an intense time.
Yeah.
Extremely intense time. And he'd gotten hired somewhere in the mid-70s, somewhere between 72 and 75. And the story goes that they originally hired him as the PE teacher, give him a job.
Oh, yeah, give the military dude the PE job. That I can't see that going wrong.
Somewhere in the first week of classes, him and his recently discharged from the war machine of 1969, he took the entire class, his main class, homeroom class, whatever, into the gym, and he had a bunch of mats laid out. Because he was catching a bunch of crap, back in the 70s. Those kids talk trash too. Mm-hmm. It was a little different.
Yeah, it was probably a little bit worse. Because now you can just express your rage via the social media.
Yeah.
Back then, you didn't have that. You had to tell that teacher to their face how much you hated them.
Yeah. And
so we had all these mats out in the gym.
So he got in the middle of the mats. He told the entire class to just come at him.
Yeah, that sounds about right for the 70s. Yeah, that sounds about right.
He was probably, smoking a Lucky Strike cigarette at the
time. Dude,
he's got it all clenched at his teeth.
I'm not that old, and I know what you're talking about.
Teenagers all over the gym.
Of course. Because that was back when teenagers would actually go and fight you, too.
That's a good point.
I'm not saying teenagers wouldn't fight you today.